All right, so can you zoom in up here? We're on this little thing, 209 Elodea Lab, and we're gonna look at the back page, and we're gonna focus in here. Okay, can you stop? So what an Elodea is, it's a freshwater algae that looks like this. And we're gonna take one little leaf off, and we're gonna look at it under the microscope, and it's gonna be basically a box with a couple of these green structures in it. So we're gonna draw a couple of those on the back of this, okay? All right, so at the end, we're gonna have it, it's gonna look like this when we're done. But we're gonna draw that right here, okay? So we're gonna start, you can just keep filming on this. We're gonna start by drawing two rectangles that look like this. And these are the cell wall of a plant. Can you pause? So this is like the cell wall, and this is the cell that sort of fits inside that cell wall. So we're gonna draw this part, which is the membrane, inside this. So we're gonna draw the membrane pushed right up against the box, the cell wall like this. See how it's pressed up against there? So this inside piece is the cell membrane. So we're gonna carefully draw an arrow. So it's touching that line, that's the cell membrane. And then we have the goop inside. And that goop is the cytoplasm. Like that. You can zoom in, yeah, there you go, good. And then we have, because these are eukaryotic cells, we have, let's see where I should draw, I'll put it right here. This is our little nucleus. Like that, okay? Now, this is our onion cell, okay? And this thing over here, this is our Elodea cell. So if you remember, the Elodea was green. So the reason it's green is because it's got a structure inside of it that's green, like that. And this little guy has a name. It's called a chloroplast. And what it does is it basically makes food for the plant using a process called photosynthesis. Okay? Yeah, okay. All right, so there's the Elodea, and we're gonna zoom in on, look at one of those cells, right? So we can zoom in and we'll see it. Those are the chloroplasts. And the question, you know, the thing that these chloroplasts do is they make food, basically they make sugar for the plant, which is what we're seeing here. They take sunlight and turn it into sugar, which is food, okay? So I won't jump into those, but that's basically, now if we zoom in on that's what we're doing here, we're zooming in on one chloroplast. And we're seeing here that in a chloroplast, it takes sunlight and carbon dioxide and makes sugar out of it. And for those of you that are particularly interested in this little challenge, you can write the formula for it, which is this chemical formula down below. So carbon dioxide is represented by this formula here, CO2, and it mixes with water, which is H2O, and then it takes light and takes the energy from the light and puts it into a molecule called sugar. And that molecule has a formula that's this, C6H12O6, and it also gives us oxygen, okay? So if you come over here, so these are what we call formulas, and they have a formula and they have a name. So basically water and carbon dioxide gets put together inside the plant using the sunlight to make oxygen and food for the plant. Food can also be called the sugar, and the fancy name for the sugar is glucose. So a level 5 word for us is glucose. That's the name of this particular sugar. And this is the formula. If you want some extra challenge, you'll see on the lab, there's a place to figure out the formula for sugar. Okay? Now, there's a question on there, why doesn't an onion have chloroplasts? Well, it's because it turns out, a student just told me it's an underground stem, not a root, but it's not a leaf, so they don't bother making chloroplasts because they're not in the sun. So that's going to be helpful in the lab.